I've been thinking a lot about something that all of us have been through. It's affected us mentally, physically, socially, and has arguably molded us to be the people we are today, whether that be for better or worse. It's something that we don't have a choice in, yet we all experience.
6, 7, 6, 7, 6, 7.
I'm talking about school. Good old school, where you make friends, hate teachers, and get in trouble constantly for God knows what. School is something you learn to appreciate as you get older, especially when you finish it, because you realize all the good it has done for you, like the friends you make and the bullies you hate more, where you learn to prepare for life and learn the basics you'll need as an adult. Wait a second. We didn't learn any of that shit. Yeah, that's right. Today, I'm going to take you to school. My name is Professor Dude, and this is my class on why school is a scam, and I'm not just talking about college. Everyone has a different experience in school. We're human, and none of us are the same. So a lot of this will be through the lens of my eyes and people around me. For me, I started in preschool. Some people might not have started here, so if you haven't, I'll explain what it was like for me. Preschool was more so like glorified daycare. 90% of it consisted of physical activity with some art thrown in. And the day ended with nap time, where you would grab these foam mats and sleep on the floor next to other kids. To be honest, it was a lot of fun. I remember learning to swim, make tons of different kinds of art pieces, and getting lots of exercise. It's basically designed to keep kids using up their energy and letting their imagination flow. For me, it was also where I made my first friend, who stayed as my best friend through most of my school life. Every Friday was water day, where they would let us swim and they would rent out a bunch of inflatable water slides for us to play on. They would even get a snowball stand for us to have snowballs. You learned to make friends while parents had a way to tire out their kids every day. It was a win-win for both parties. They would also rent these giant inflatable bouncy castles and slides. I specifically remember this giant inflatable you would walk through, and at the end was a giant slide. But as you walked through the inside, it would take you through the different stages of a caterpillar becoming a butterfly. It was my favorite thing ever. The facility I went to was called AIM, or Athletes in Motion. It was a place also used for gymnastics, so we witnessed a lot of gymnasts practicing throughout our different classes. After preschool or pre-K, depending on who you are, starts the first official steps into the life of school. Kindergarten through 5th grade for me is what we called primary school, or elementary school as some people prefer to call it. Primary school, I think, for the most part, is fine. You learn to read, write, basic math, and sciences. Most also had PE or physical education, where you get to be active and you have recess as well to play and have fun. You'll make more friends and most likely for the first time, some enemies, but we aren't here to talk about bullies. My only real issue with primary school is there are some skills you learn that I think are a little unnecessary. For example, I learned to write in cursive handwriting. Now, I have some really good cursive handwriting, but do I ever use that shit? Not really. To be fair, when I was in primary school, technology was not used as much as today. We had computer lab where we spent some time on computers, but it wasn't until middle school when we started to have a taste of technology. Speaking of middle school, let's talk about it. For me, only a specific group of classes had iPads at my school, which was the first thing we used as far as tech goes in school. They called this team the I-Team, which a lot of kids just associated it as the smart kids. But there were a lot of stupid ass motherfuckers in that group. They were all randomly selected just like the rest of the classes. However, in 8th grade, everyone got iPads finally. Middle school is just a worse primary school. I can't begin to tell you how many fucking times I learned that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell and the chlorophyll is what provides plants food. I learned that every single year in science class until junior year of high school. Why are we wasting time relearning the same shit every year? Most kids also start hitting puberty around this time of life, and for us, instead of having a sex ed class, we had one day in PE where a doctor came in and explained some very basic STDs and not even really explaining what sex was, though most kids knew by then just through word of mouth. Boys being boys, you know. Middle school was my least favorite time of school. I felt like all my time was wasted. It felt like Inception because every year, which was 6th through 8th grade, just felt like rinse and repeat. Nothing changed in terms of learning. It was the same shit but with different teachers and slightly different kids in your class. Also, teachers seemed the most unhappy in middle school. I'm not too surprised considering this is usually around the time when kids get rebellious and more rambunctious due to things like puberty, but teachers at my school made it way too obvious that they could not give a fuck. Granted, not all of them, but you could certainly tell which ones were one bad day away from ending it all. Some of my worst teacher experiences happened in middle school. My mom taught middle school math, specifically 7th grade, and she hated that shit. The thing too is a lot of teachers at this level barely seem to understand what they're even teaching. I remember multiple times correcting my math teacher on what the correct answer was. Even my freshman year of high school, we were constantly having to tell our teachers that the answer was wrong. That should not happen. I guess on the bright side, it shows that we as students understand, but I mean, if we don't correct that shit, everyone would be learning wrong. Middle school, for me, is where I struggled the most socially as well. There were a lot of people I just didn't care to be friends with, and since my mom worked at my school, most of my main friends consisted of the other kids who had parents that worked at the school, being I spent a lot of time with them after school hours. We all varied in grade, so I wasn't consistently seeing some of them as much as kids in my grade. However, middle school is where I got to start band and fell in love with music. It basically catapulted me into falling in love with it and pursuing a school career in it. All things considered, I believe primary and elementary school to overall be okay. Outside of relearning a bunch of things in middle school, I don't think there's any unnecessary learning in those grades. Most of what you learn makes sense for your age and level of learning. But here's where the bullshit begins. High school. Good old high school. Let me preface this by stating I had a great high school experience. I made many good friends, really enjoyed band and other extracurricular activities, but this is where the scamming starts. The capital B bullshit, because high school is advertised as the first step to prepping you for the real world. Sound the alarm. Sound the liar alarm. I took one class in my entire high school career that kind of prepares you for some real world problems. Uno. It was my freshman year and it was called career readiness. I wish I could tell you I remember anything I learned in that class, but I don't. The only thing I vaguely remember is talking about property tax and buying houses, but none of that shit matters anyways because no one can afford houses nowadays. I also remember that my teacher was a coach, and most of our time in that class consisted of playing Halo Combat Evolved on our school laptops or whatever other games we pirated. Again, this is the only class we ever had in our entire pre-college years that was supposed to prep us for life. And not only did it not do that, but we had to take it our freshman year of high school. Why the fuck would you not make that something you take your junior or senior year? It makes zero sense. On top of that, they make it incredibly difficult to explore potential career options. Early in my high school years and prior, I wanted to go into biology and become a wildlife and marine biologist. I wanted to travel the world studying and discovering animals. I've always had a fascination and soft spot for them. At the very least, I thought I could be a veterinarian for a zoo or something and work with exotic animals. In order to take more biology/health-centered classes, you had to sign up for a program called Allied Health. It wasn't hard to get into, but it wasn't guaranteed. Towards the end of my sophomore year, I realized that I wanted to pursue music. I was very good at band. By then, I had also made numerous original songs. I realized that it was my passion. However, since I joined Allied Health, it wasn't so simple to just stop. On top of the science classes you are forced to take, I had to take another Allied Health science course whether I wanted to or not. At least one more time my junior year. You also had to buy scrubs to cosplay as doctors at school. That's literally the only reason too. It's just to cosplay as doctors and literally no other reason. Nothing else. Let's say, however, you wanted to take a different path. Say music, psychology, business, or social sciences. Yeah, good fucking luck finding any class that'll help prepare or nurture that choice. I mean, Jesus, good fucking luck, because they don't exist. They introduced Music Theory 1 2 years after I graduated high school. Your only choices are band or choir, which if you didn't start band in middle school, you basically can't join it at all in high school. There are no psychology courses, no business courses, no social science courses outside of civics, which you are forced to take your sophomore year, but that's it. Genuinely, health science is the only career option that has development in high school, outside of general education. Speaking of general education, let's talk about that for a second. The things you learn in high school gen ed are genuinely some of the most useless shit ever. Outside of history and some science, what the fuck are they teaching some of this shit to us for? In math, they waste your goddamn time with geometry. For what? I'm not Bob the Builder. Why not teach students more about doing math with percentages? I mean, we use that shit every single fucking day in our adult lives. Whether it's interest rates, tips, taxes, literally everything. Instead, you spend a week or two learning about percentages. Same with fractions.
No, we have to learn Pythagorean theorem for the third time. Quadratic formula, or shit with sine and cosine, like we're all about to be rocket scientists or engineers. We have to. You have to learn this.
Why not have those classes separately for students who want to be engineers? It's a growing major in college. Therefore, you'd probably do well to have it be like an honors option for high school students. Learning history is never bad, so no complaints there. But English and science are also on the chopping block of useless butt mud. All, and I mean all of high school, is reading and comprehension. All of it. The only exception for me, at least, was honors English my senior year, which was an essay writing class. Every single other year was just reading stories, talking about them, then taking a test. It is the most boring shit of all time. Science, on the other hand, is very different. Every year in science, starting in middle school, it's just infinite biology. Now, biology is very useful, don't get me wrong, but most of it consists of studying cells until sophomore biology, where you advance to sex and dissection. As stated earlier, there are many other optional science options once you hit high school, but this is gen ed we're talking about. Why is chemistry a gen ed science? Look, I think chemistry is cool, and to be honest, I think that's the main reason it's a gen ed science. It's there to keep students' attention and lets the teacher do cool stuff in front of kids, but what the hell do we need chemistry for in day-to-day life? Literally what? We take physics one time in our entire student career pre-college, which is arguably just as important to learn as biology. Physics should easily be a multi-year class. That and more medical/health sciences. Wouldn't it be nice if people knew at least the basics to different medical treatments? I mean that more so in terms of like the types of antibiotics we take, or how to wrap/bandage wounds. You know, stuff on that line. Or maybe learning more about muscles and diets to better take care of the human body. Yes, you do learn different food groups as kids, but it's mainly to define different food groups. You never really go into detail on calorie intake or protein levels, which in a country filled over the brim with obese people would probably do a great service for us. The amount of knowledge the average person has about the human body probably doesn't expand past knowing organs and some bones. Now, I know you do learn about the human body in school. For instance, things like the nervous system, digestive system, organs, etc. My point is that I think it should be focused more practically rather than specifically. I think it's cool that you learn the names of different parts of the nervous system, cells including blood, or immune system, but in general education, is it really more important to know that than knowing how to take care of yourself or others in certain ill or injury-induced situations, like symptoms or broken bones? Again, knowing more about physics can help you in real jobs. It can help you know how to handle laborious tasks more efficiently. All I'm saying is, while the other stuff is important, it should stay to that 1 year of biology class. And then if you decide to pursue a career in biology, whether that be in wildlife, nursing, chemistry, or whatever, then let them get the specifics. History is a bit different, because I actually don't have a problem with what is taught. My problem with it is the way it is taught, which will lead to another problem, but we will talk about that later. My biggest issue, or even in life, for me, is my memory. I don't have a great one. History has always been the hardest for me because it was hard to remember the overload of information I was given, and history tests are always a test of memory. There are only 2 years of history that I can actually remember fondly, and that was my junior and senior years of high school, because the teachers tried. My junior year teacher treated the class like we were reading campfire stories. He would stand in front of the class with a projector on and a sheet of paper sitting on top of it. He would teach us history by telling it to us like it was a story. He'd be very animated and emotional while talking, and he made it clear that anytime he wrote something on that paper, we should too. It was fun to listen to him talk, and he would also use videos and pictures when he could to further immerse the class. This teacher was so good that he was teacher of the year multiple times, and every student he had ever taught was constantly coming back to see him. He was well loved at my school and a great teacher. My senior year teacher was new for many of us, and he did a similar technique, but slightly different. He was all about class immersion and getting us involved. Every day when we would walk into class, he would have something on the board for us to vote and debate about before class eventually started. For example, the one I remember the most because I liked the question a lot was, do you think humans are naturally born good or evil? Everyone would go up to the board and vote, and then we'd sit down as our teacher would give everyone who wanted to speak a turn. It was awesome, and it got us very involved. He would continue when class would officially start by having us physically participate in his teachings. I remember when we were learning about King Henry VII. He had a picture of all of his wives on the wall of the room, and every time we got to the point where they perished, we would have someone either draw an X on their eyes or violently rip it down. It was fun and very entertaining, and this is just one example. However, all my other years of history were a struggle, and I find that the average American can't tell you shit about the history of their country, except for very standard facts. Unless you majored in history, or you yourself are a history nerd, most Americans barely know dog turd about our country. Now, I'm not saying I know a lot about our country, but because compared to history majors or history nerds, I don't. But I've seen multiple videos of people questioning natural-born citizens about our country's history and politics, and some of them couldn't even tell you with confidence who our first president is.
Oh shoot, it's East or West, right?
It's insane. Now, to say that's our school system fault isn't entirely fair. However, if a big majority of people are struggling with certain educational subjects, the only direction you can point your finger in is to the source. I mean, if you went to the doctor and they prescribed you medicine for an illness and it wasn't working, you aren't going to point your finger at the medicine and assume it's their fault. You're going to point it at your doctor for prescribing you the wrong medicine. Same applies here. If a vast majority of people in our country are struggling with a subject, you aren't going to point your finger at one teacher, you're going to point it at the whole system. As you should. Anyways, we got a little off track. I think it's time we move to the big dog, the top of the food chain of educational scamming. We're moving to the big kahuna, college.
Yo, no, we get off here.
Honestly, I don't even know if I need to do much explaining, especially to more recent generations who have finished and or went to college already. I mean, what is there to say that hasn't already been said? Student loans, debt, and a piece of paper that doesn't guarantee anything anymore. College to me is a lot like going car shopping for a used car. You know, you're just really, really excited to get a new car, you know, a new vehicle. But the second you fork over the cash for it, you start to freak out in a little bit and you're just like, man, I hope this was worth it. And you know, you start driving your new car, you're very excited to just have it. But the more you drive it, you start to notice some things, you know, that kind of piss you off. Maybe your windows squeak a lot because they're dry rotted when you roll them up and down, or your check engine light is on all the time, or your AC doesn't work properly. You know, you just start to notice some things that just kind of piss you off. You know, it gets you from A to B, but with struggle. That's what college is like. I don't want to shit on college too badly because I had a great time. I made many lifelong friends. I got to pursue more knowledge in my passion for music, and I had some cool opportunities through things like band and other extracurricular activities. I played on esports teams. I was in a fraternity for a short time, and I learned to be independent, which is arguably the most useful skill to learn as a blossoming adult. College has this huge problem of wasting time, and I don't mean in terms of learning, more so in terms of life after college. You apply to schools, but first you gotta pay. You get accepted, awesome. Now, you gotta pay for where you're going to live. Want food? Gotta pay for a food plan. Wanna go to class? Gotta pay for every single semester. Oh, you don't have enough money? Oh, take out a student loan and spend half your adulthood paying it off. Pay hundreds of dollars for books you don't need. Pay hundreds of dollars for equipment you might need. Pay for your graduation gown. You get the idea. Colleges have an infinite money glitch because they grab you by the cankle and shake all the money out of your pockets like a cartoon bully. Then what do they do with the money? Well, if you're in a department they don't care about, then nothing. I went to college for music production. The school I went to was one of, if not the only school at the time in my state that had the type of program I was looking for. When I went for my first day, they were still using chalkboards and wooden desks in all the classrooms like this school was still in the 1940s. Nothing changed my entire 4 years there except they eventually got whiteboards. Oh, but football gets new uniforms. And as a matter of fact, they recently just redid the entire stadium. And we aren't an SEC or an NCAA team. Granted, our team is good for the division that they're in, but still. Engineers get new equipment, nursing majors get new equipment. The only thing they added for music majors is a separate major you can take and not have to major an instrument. Basically, you get to do exactly what I went to school for, but in this major, you aren't forced to play or know an instrument. I was forced to play French horn, which was the instrument I learned in band. I didn't have a choice because if I did, I would have still played in concert band and marching band, but I wouldn't have taken lessons with the French horn professor. I wouldn't have done juries, which if you don't know what those are, it's basically a final you take every semester where you play a bunch of songs in front of all your instruments class professors, which in this case mine was the brass professors, and they judge your entire semester in this one nerve-wracking, heart-pounding moment. And if you fail in this one moment, you fail the semester no matter how good you've been doing in your lessons or classes. To me, I hated that because not only was it judged unfairly, but in my case, nothing I did with my French horn had anything to do with my major. It was the year after I graduated that they introduced this new major, and I was so mad. I understand I was a music major, but I wasn't majoring in performance or in education. So what did me getting better at French horn have anything to do with music production and audio engineering? I'll tell you what, nothing. I even told the French horn professor straight to her face one day that I most likely will never touch this instrument again after college. And I can tell you with absolute certainty, I have yet to do so. On top of that, every semester I had a max of 2 classes that actually had anything to do with my major. Granted, I did get to take some classes that may not have had anything to do with my music media, but I enjoyed and was glad to take. Things like music theory, jazz theory, and film score were a few classes I was super happy I got to take. Although, it really sucked only having 1 or 2 one-hour classes every semester that had to deal with what I actually wanted to learn. On top of that, college classes work very differently than normal school. Most of your classes aren't every day. They are on certain days at certain times, and most of them are ran by different professors, which means you have to stay organized with your student email and make sure not only that you received and turned in assignments, but you also need to make sure if class is canceled, if your professor wants you to bring certain things with you, or when they schedule tests. This is the one thing I think college is good for, and that's organizing and forcing you to manage your time. But again, is it really worth it? Most people can't afford college, and even with scholarships, the average student still struggles to afford it. On top of that, most people end up dropping out of college anyways, which isn't surprising considering how much they bleed out your wallets. Yet the issue with college isn't just the money or time wasted, it's its uselessness. College used to be a highly regarded accomplishment, and for family and friends, it still is, but that's not what I'm talking about. Having a degree used to guarantee you a place in society's workforce. Having one meant someone was going to take you under their wing and mold you, hopefully, into the worker you want to be. Now, it's just a decoration piece in your home. Having a degree basically means nothing. And I'm not saying it should mean everything, but it should mean something more than what it is today. I'm a firm believer that experience speaks louder than a degree. Because you can have the knowledge to do something, but if you don't know how or when to apply it, then what's the point? Although I also believe that having a degree shows a willingness not only to learn, but to comprehend, or at the very least, the ability to figure something out. Most people with degrees can't even get entry-level jobs. Entry-level. I'm not saying it should guarantee you the job, but it should at least guarantee you an interview. Like, what the hell are we doing? College graduates struggle to get jobs, not just in their field, but in general. And I know some of you are thinking,
Well, everyone struggles to get a job, not just college graduates.
and yes, I understand that. However, we live in a society where college is advertised as a guaranteed way to get you a good paying job, which is obviously horse caca. In my opinion, college is great as an experience. I had fun, and if you major in something you enjoy like I did, I enjoyed a lot of my classes and learned a lot about my passion. But it is a waste of time when it comes to career building. I swear to you, the only people who are guaranteed anything after college are engineers, nursing majors, and maybe computer science majors. Anything else, you are fucked. With that being said, I think there's a huge misconception with what a college degree does for you. I won't name any names due to privacy reasons, but there are two people I know that went through a bit of a situation. Let me lay it out for you. These two people I know used to work together at the same company. One of them had been working there for about 5 to 6 years with no college degree, but college experience. The other had no experience in any corporate job and had only worked restaurant jobs, but they had a master's degree. The one with the master's had only been working at the company for about 7 or 8 months and wanted a raise and got one. The problem is they gave them a raise to the same value as the person who had been working there for years and didn't give a raise to the loyal worker. The loyal worker was upset and wanted one too, but didn't get one. The master's worker was still not happy because they felt they were more valuable because they had a master's degree. Keep in mind, they had the same position, which was far from an entry-level position, and this is where the delusion is from. Having a degree, no matter what level, does not automatically make you more valuable, nor does it guarantee a position anywhere. The only thing a degree gives you is a better chance to start at a higher level. That's it. Nothing else. If you don't understand what I mean, I'll explain. Having a degree gives you a better chance at not having to start at an entry-level position. That doesn't mean you'll make the same as workers who have been there longer, nor does it mean you automatically deserve to have a higher position than someone who has been there longer, because what matters more is loyalty and work ethic. If you don't have either, then who gives a shit about your degree? Anyways, to get back on topic, degrees don't really hold much merit anymore. It's just an accomplishment your parents make you feel like you need, but you don't. You can learn anything a university would teach you online for free. School is a scam, and college is the biggest one. But, as stated earlier, we can't just point the finger at them. Teachers are arguably just as easy to blame. Granted, not all of them, but some of them are just not qualified to be teaching. If you are a teacher and all you do is pass out worksheets, fuck yourself. You should be locked up in one of those contraptions that lock you by the arms and head and just be pelted with by Rotten Tomatoes for wasting people's time. You aren't a teacher, you're a rightfully paid warden. People learn better in different ways. I'm a hands-on learner. I learn better by physically doing something. Some people learn fine by reading books, and some people work better through explanation. But there is no way in HE double hockey sticks that passing out worksheets every day is the best way to teach students. College is no better. Most non-major courses are lecture classes, where they spew information at you all class with slides on the board and expect everyone to retain that shit. Although it's not just the teaching that sucks, some of them can't handle the environment. Yeah, there are awful students that are going to walk through the door, but you signed up for this. I've seen videos of teachers crashing out on kids for almost nothing or getting in physical fights with students. That's just unacceptable. Like, God forbid kids try to enjoy their time at a place they are forced to go to for 8 hours, 5 days a week, like 8.5 months for about 13 years of the start of their lives. On top of that, they're forced to do homework. Why the fuck does homework exist? They already have to spend most of their waking time being overloaded with information, and now they have to go home and do more work. Homework shouldn't be a thing until like high school, but I'll tell you why it exists. It's because they want to brainwash you. I know, it sounds crazy, but just hear me out. They make you work and work. Then they send you home and make you work more because they want you to get complacent with always working. They want all your time dedicated to working like an ant, and they want you to feel like all your time must be spent working. Otherwise, you're just procrastinating and wasting time. They mold you into thinking that any time not spent helping society and its workforce is time wasted. Want to play games with friends? Wasted time. Want to just have a chill day at home? Wasted time. Even as an adult, you'll be contacted on your days off from work, expected to either come in or help with a situation at work when you aren't even there. Fortunately, as an employee, you are always guaranteed 2 days off, unless you work very specific jobs. And you are only supposed to work 40 hours a week, otherwise you get overtime for any time worked over. However, there are so many scummy business practices that I can't even get into right now just so I can stay on topic. Regardless, school is designed to make you work and be happy with it, whether you like it or not. This is why adults always sound and look so miserable. They don't realize that the system is working against them and scamming them out of all their time and money. School is a scam. It is. Arguably the biggest legal scam, at least here in America. It could be a great place full of useful knowledge, fun, and time well spent. Instead, we make it miserable for students, teachers, staff, and honestly, if it's just a prison that parents take their kids to so that they don't have to see how miserable mommy and daddy are outside in the real world. Otherwise, they won't want to be a part of society. School is, by law, something every single child must go to. Yet, if you can't afford it as a parent, instead of the government helping you, they take your clothes off and stick it in you. They make school so expensive not only for parents, but for students too. School lunch isn't free. Teachers get paid nothing. They make you wear school uniforms so that you look more like prisoners instead of allowing kids to express themselves. Some make classes so boring or uninviting instead of making it a fun experience that they would enjoy and want to be a part of. There are so many things about school that could be better, that could make it a more enjoyable experience. Instead, our government would rather make it worse on top of the already declining intellect in our country, and they would rather face fuck parents' wallets instead of making something that people are forced to do easier and more affordable. I mean, I've seen videos of kids enjoying classes with amazing teachers. It's possible to enjoy school. I myself had great experiences, although I was typically sent to the bone zone with awful teachers. I mean, I've had some of the most mean and miserable pieces of fertilizer the school system has seen. It shouldn't be a place students dread going. It should be a place that prepares them for adulthood, allows them to express themselves, and helps them discover a passion that they can work towards. And for some, maybe it is. But studies show a completely different story. We have seen for the first time in decades a drop in IQ scores, and to be honest, I don't think it's the fault of students. I think it's the curriculum they are being taught and how it's being taught to them. I mean, there are many teachers who don't even understand what they're teaching, and that's a problem. Now, the idea that the IQ in newer generations rising consistently is something known as the Flynn effect. The fact that tests show that it's dropping is not necessarily something to worry about, because the real issue lies in how society has changed. AI is trying to become a more cognitive force in labor. People are constantly glued to screens and being shown brain rot and gambling ads. That includes kids. Kids are being shown gambling ads constantly, like all the time. And on top of that, there are many boomers and older generations who are not only making it harder for younger generations economically, but also politically. I'm obviously not going to go into grave detail about those subjects, but you get the point. The world built around them is basically built against them. What are they working towards if they can't get a job, afford to live and buy a home, or hell, if they can't afford to go to school? There are also plenty of people who start at such a lower point in society that getting anywhere in life is basically a pipe dream. So again, you can point fingers at anyone, students, parents, teachers, but no matter who you point it to, it all leads back to school and what they taught you to expect. It's all a lie, and that's because it's a damn scam. Bars. Thank you so much for watching this video, and if you stuck here to the end right now, right here, right now, I love you. I really do, man. Like, you're just the best. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, leave a comment, and let me know if you want to see more like this or what you want to see more of. And most importantly, subscribe so that you can see when I upload more videos. Please, please do it, please. I love seeing your beautiful faces. I love seeing you type in my comments and, giving me your opinions on things. I love it. Express yourself, my friend. Express yourself. Do it. Do it. If you enjoy this type of content, go check out my older videos. I have a lot more stuff, that are similar to this, at least to this vibe. Go check out my hidden gem videos. I really enjoy making those, and I think you'll enjoy it too. On top of what I have on here, I'm a musician in real life. That's my main thing. So if you want to listen to some of my music, I'll leave a link in the description to Spotify. But if you don't use Spotify, you can find it here on YouTube Music. You can find it on Pandora, on Tidal, on literally any streaming platform. Fuck, TikTok, Snapchat, it's on there. You can find it on any streaming platform. So go check it out. I would greatly appreciate it. I actually have a new single that came out very recently that I think you will love. But yeah, I just love you so dang much, man. Like, thank you for being here. Thank you for sticking to the end. And you may agree with what I said today. You may disagree with what I said today. And that's okay, because at the end of the day, my name is Cinema Dude, and what the hell do I know?